No, not yet. Okay, now we are.
Okay.
I ain't the kind of wear a tie. Button up the I tried that life but said goodbye.
Damn it, Ross.
Not always polite, but I get the job done. Who says that work can never be fun? I'm simply unprofessional. Simply unprofessional. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Simply Unprofessional. I'm your host, Webby. Joining me tonight, we have very special guest, Ross Malcolm Boyd. Ross, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. You know what? I've got a piping hot cup of hot chocolate, a good friend on the line, and some fond memories. I'm ready for the episode.
Which friend do you have on the line? Who did you put on hold to do this?
Oh, my actually, it's in person. It's my cat, Squeak.
Oh.
She's right here by my side as
Hey,
always.
you know what?
Faithful companion. What?
Normally we do this at the end, but I'm going to let you do this at the beginning.
What up?
Doesn't Squeak have their own Instagram?
Yes, she does. It's
Why don't you
Squeakum
promote? There you go. Promote the Instagram for the cat.
Squeakum_her_fuzz.
There you go.
Right there on Instagram. Squeakum her fuzz. Yeah, she's got. I just post pictures of. Well, she posts them. You know, it's her. I try not to get involved.
How? She doesn't have opposable thumbs.
No, but she's got them putts and she's got that tail.
No.
Teamwork.
No.
You got to use them both. You got to use them both.
So Ross, how you been, man?
I've been busy and tired, but good.
You've also made noises during my intro again.
I made no intro. I made no noises.
You got me laughing.
No
I heard them. You know what?
You started laughing
honestly,
and I shushed you.
Honestly, it's on me. It's on me.
Frankly, well, yeah, but honestly, it's I'm a little bit put out. Like usually, you try to keep a clean, you run a tight ship, but sometimes when I come on, you're a little loose, a little bit more free.
Listen,
I just wish that I could get the professional treatment for a while.
Technically, it's on me because during all of these intros and everything, because I know I talked to you before I started recording about how essentially you're one of the only people who ever really makes noises or talks during the intro portion, and you're the reason why we talk during the outro portion now.
Yes.
That's on me technically, because I could just deafen while I play the intro music, and then then the audience wouldn't hear anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't. That to me that's partially like editing, and everybody who listens to the show knows how I feel about editing.
Everybody knows that you won't do it.
Yeah, and I remember one week I had the music program that I have for the intro music playing. Right, and it comes up in the My Music program on my computer or whatever. And mid song, I was like, "All right, I'm getting ready. I'm pulling up web pages for whatever me and Devin were talking about that week." And then I was like, "Oh, I don't need this page open anymore because the intro music's already playing." And I closed out of it, and it just shut down the intro music. And I was like, "Well, not fixing that." I blamed it on some technical thing. I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess the intro music just shut off." That was weird.
That's gonna happen from time to time. Yeah.
I do see Devin popped in. Is Devin there?
I'm here. What's up?
Hello.
Devin. We have a Devin also.
Right on.
Devin, did you manage to actually watch a movie?
I got about an hour and 10, 15 minutes in, but I do want to rewatch it so I can contribute. I can add to the conversation right now.
All right.
I do want to rewatch it because I was filling out paperwork while I was watching it, so I'm probably going to rewatch it sometime this week. But yeah, so far I'm like an hour in. It's really good.
That's fine if you feel like you can contribute to anything. That's more than enough, because like I was telling Ross before we even started recording, I was like, "You think we're gonna get 45 minutes out of this?" He's like, "Oh, easy." I was like, "Well, that's cool because I got 2 things to say about this movie and that's it." So I'm just gonna be riffing off of Ross, I guess, for the next 45 minutes.
This is gonna sound really weird, right? But I'll bring this up on the actual call too. But once we get started.
I mean, we are started.
Oh yeah,
I already did. I did the intro and everything. Yeah.
Well, what's up? I'm Devin. I'm here. What's up? One of the weirdest things we watched in this movie was it just me, or did Mr. Rogers in this movie kind of give off like a legit serial killer vibe?
No. Okay. Listen. Yes. Okay. Yes, I will say yes. I think it was mainly, especially when he gets serious and he just looks at you.
Yes, when he was opening up like the picture doors, and then we saw like the one guy who was like face was like
Lloyd.
Face was Lloyd. We saw Lloyd. He opens up the thing. We see Lloyd. I'm like, I'm getting Crypt Keeper vibes right now.
And then he's sitting there and he's like, "Oh, someone hurt my friend Lloyd." I was expecting him to say, "Now we're gonna go exact revenge on whoever hurt Lloyd." It's like, well. No, I'm right there with you, Devin. Like, don't get me wrong.
He just reaches down, pulls out a knife. It's like, neighborhood, roll out.
Yeah. Mr. Rogers is the ultimate Autobot.
Yep. Just
the whole neighborhood just folds up and he turns into a transformer and rolls out. Now, okay, like I was saying, I messaged Ross. I watched this yesterday. I was messaging Ross while I watched it. Now, I will agree, Devin. Yes, I got like. There were especially some scenes when like he when he was trying to pay attention to Lloyd and like when he got serious, like when he found out like Lloyd's dad hit him, and it's like, and he has like that one eye that's just closed a little bit more than the other. It's like, oh man, this Fred Rogers is gonna murder Lloyd's dad. Like, I seriously felt really for Lloyd's dad.
I enjoyed it. It really came off that way, or it came off just like Mr. Rogers was a little dark,
but
like,
for sure, there
was something behind his eye,
for sure,
like
for sure.
Every time he brought up anything about him, he would just like slowly like steer the subject.
Yeah, but I told Ross,
that might have been intentional, because like if we're looking through Lloyd's eyes at this whole thing, like he is like intent on digging up the dirt on Mr. Rogers.
Oh no,
and exposing him for a fraud or whatever.
Very minimal editing, you could spin this into like a horror thriller. With very minimal editing.
I would love to see a Mr. Rogers horror thriller. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, okay. Part of me wants this to happen now, but part of me, after having seen this movie, and I did a little bit of research on Mr. Rogers, like I messaged Ross yesterday. I genuinely think that Mr. Rogers was one of the last genuine good human beings left on the planet.
Oh, for sure he was.
And he was just he was an all-around just a good guy.
At least that we know him. Like, in like 20 years, we may get like the Dark Side of Mr. Rogers documentary.
See, I don't think we will. That's the thing. I think
we don't. I hope if there is bodies in his closet and buried under his house, like I just hope that they've destroyed all records of it and we never find out.
No,
it's fine. It's like, but what about the families? They need closure.
I'm not gonna lie.
Families. We need our Mr. Rogers icon.
I'm not gonna lie.
Families in this case.
I want to see. I would rather hear that like his wife Joanne was the serial killer, and Mr. Rogers was just the face of the family to try to just maintain balance.
Oh my god! And he was
you know what's gonna happen though? Like, you know what's gonna happen though? In like 20, 25 years, they're gonna like tear down his family home. Be like, tearing down Mr. Rogers' family home. They found 300,000 human corpses. Like, you know, it's just like, God damn it.
We find out that Fred was he just suffered Stockholm syndrome the whole time.
Yeah.
He was extremely faithful to his wife because he was just kidnapped one day and she never let him go. And
or he was like,
but
he was like the head priest of like the Luciferian church, like constantly sacrificing people and some shit. Like, we're gonna find out something terrible about Mr. Rogers, and then that's the day I'm just gonna off myself.
No,
because then I'm done.
The thing is this movie, like, everybody thinks, oh, Mr. Rogers is just like a really great person. Blah blah. This movie showed, and he admitted to the fact that he's not perfect. He has bad qualities. He gets angry. He has a temper, you know. But the thing that made Mr. Rogers such a great human being is the fact that he worked every single day at
bettering
himself and maintaining it, you know.
Yeah.
No, he didn't bottle it up, and like he said, like one thing that he likes to do is when he's frustrated or whatever, he'll just hit all the low keys on a piano, which, I mean, spoiler alert, Devin, he does at the end. And it was a great, just that one scene was just like, it's such a simple scene, but it was like, see, so he is, you know, that life does get to this guy. You know, he's not just impervious to everybody's, you know, bullshit. But the thing is like, watching the movie, like, Devin, have you gotten to the train scene where they're on the subway yet?
Yeah, and like everybody starts singing.
And everybody starts singing.
I literally have 32 minutes left.
Yeah, and it's like... And this movie was based on a true story of his interactions with this reporter and whatnot.
Wait, he was a real guy?
Yes.
Oh my god, I didn't... Holy shit.
Now, interesting fact.
I need to rewatch this.
You know the postman in the Mr. Rogers show, the mailman?
Yes.
Mr. McFeely?
Yes.
That is Fred Rogers' middle name. His middle name is McFeely.
Mr.? Oh, McFeely.
Yeah. Which I think is an odd middle name, but hey, to each your own, I guess. I guess his parents hated him, that's all. But yeah, it's just, I mean, all in all, I thought this movie was fantastic. I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it to everybody. And like I had told my mom, because my mom likes to try to keep up to date with SU. So every so often it's like, yeah, hey, this week we're going to be talking about this movie if you want to go watch it before you listen to the episode or whatever.
My mom.
And as soon as I told her, it's like, yeah, we did it on the Mr. Rogers movie. She started laughing. She's like, I hated Mr. Rogers.
Oh,
and I was like, well, after watching this movie, how the fuck can you hate Mr. Rogers? And then I challenged her. I was like, hey, go watch the movie and tell me what you think. Tell me if that changes your opinion on Fred Rogers. Because, like, there is some stuff on here that I didn't know. Like, I grew up watching Mr. Rogers, but I only knew what you saw on TV.
Sure.
You know, I didn't know him as a person. But,
right.
But I mean, watching this movie, what you saw on the TV show was him.
Right.
That's who he was, both on and off screen.
That's the magic of Fred Rogers.
Yeah. Like I love the part where Lloyd asked him, he's like, yeah, you know, there's Fred Rogers and then there's the character you play. And he just stared at him. It was like...
Yeah.
That's where I was like, oh man, Mr. Rogers is going to pull like a knife out of his shoe and fucking slit Lloyd's throat.
It's over.
Go ahead.
I'm going
to say one of the most apt descriptions I've ever thought of when I was thinking of Mr. Rogers. I was like, you know, if I was ever in public and saw Mr. Rogers, if he was still alive, and he like dropped something or broke something, and instead of cursing, he just said fiddlesticks, I would trust him still. Like, if that happened in real life, like if I met somebody and they wouldn't curse, like they dropped something or like they stubbed their toe and they were just like fiddlesticks, I'd be like, kill them now. They're a serial killer.
I know people. I know people like that who just won't swear.
They're seriously fucked up, aren't they?
Well, okay, listen. So I used to work with a kid who we called him the Uber Christian. He would not say any swear word.
Because he was Christian and he drove for Uber.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But like,
oh, dude, no. Now I kind of want to do like an indie flick of like a Christian guy who is also a missionary, and he just tries to convert you on your Uber ride.
He's like, okay, we have
like, as soon as you get
13
it's
miles.
Like a horror movie. As soon as you get in, he like locks the
doors,
open them, and then he just like rolls down like his window. He's like, "Have you accepted Jesus Christ your Lord and Savior?"
Well, we have 13 miles and 15 minutes for you to say yes.
All of a sudden, the door's locked.
Yeah. Bulletproof glass, so you can't break the windows. It's like it's an old converted squad car for like a police squad car. Oh my god!
I need this movie.
Devin, let's make it. Let's make it. Let's write up. Let's write up a plot, and we'll pitch the idea to fucking what was it TNT or some shit.
TLC.
Yeah, we'll pitch that idea to TLC, and we'll let them buy the script off us.
I'm down
for a cool $550,000.
Yep. Or you know what? I'll even do this. If they don't want to give us actual money, just buy us a big enough house for me and Webby could just live together and build us a studio in the house. And we can shoot all day.
Yep. I'd be okay with this.
That'd be a rat attack.
Even though I think that house would probably end up costing more than the $550,000.
That's fine.
That's when you bring in like a little Monopoly like hotel piece. It's like, okay, so we'll give you this script for either $550,000 or a house. Your choice. Just try to like downplay the whole house thing.
Yeah. Look, we really want the money, but we'll let you give us the house if we have to.
Next thing you know, somebody comes in and they have like Hugh Laurie tied up. They're like, "Here's your house." It's like, sold. I'll take it. Hugh Laurie, you're coming with us.
Come on, Hugh. Have you heard the good news?
Have you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior?
You get Hugh Laurie to act in it. Hugh Laurie is just the driver.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. That makes the movie 10 times better. Yeah. All right. Sold. We're gonna do this, Devin. Copywritten or whatever the fuck.
TM.
Yep. Nobody take our idea. All right. So Ross, what else do you have to say about this movie?
Well, I want to go like all the way.
I got a question. Actually, I got a question.
No, fine.
Lloyd.
Fine, yeah.
Lloyd.
Okay,
so we know that Mr. Rogers was in Philadelphia.
Yeah. No, Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. Whatever. They're both in
somewhere
Pennsylvania.
in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, somewhere in that shithole state. I know that they went to New York and part of it. Where was Lloyd from?
I think he was from New York. Didn't he work?
Okay.
It wasn't Esquire based out of New York?
That's the thing. I don't know. I don't remember where Lloyd was. For whatever reason, while I was watching it, I thought Lloyd was like in like California somewhere, like San Diego or some shit.
It could. I mean, maybe it's an LA thing. I don't know.
But I don't know. He just seemed to get back and forth really quick.
I guess it started in Chicago and then moved to New York City.
Okay.
So yeah, it was probably New York. But yeah, right. I mean, it was. I don't know if it was ambiguous on purpose.
That makes more sense to me. All right, so we'll let you go. Okay, you wanted to get back to the beginning.
Yeah, back to the beginning. When I was first seeing previews for this movie, and like people were getting all excited, Tom Hanks is going to play Fred Rogers in this new movie. My first thought was not like the same joy and excitement as everybody else seemed to have. And I love Tom Hanks. I think he's a great actor, and I think if anybody is going to play this role, he is the right person to play this role. But there was just a disconnect for me. I don't know if it's because like it's Tom Hanks and you see Tom Hanks on the screen and like Mr. Rogers intimately from your childhood, and it's like there's a disconnect there. It's like, no, that's Tom Hanks and that's Mr. Rogers. He's not the person.
He had too much meat on his bones. We needed Tom Hanks from like Castaway.
Yeah. Yes, but it wasn't even the physicality like in the trailers and stuff like that. Hearing his voice and stuff, it's like, Tom Hanks is doing that character voice thing that he does sometimes. And I'm like, I don't know. The moment he appeared on screen in the movie when we saw it, it was just like, oh shit, that's Fred Rogers. Cool, I'm in. Like everything, his mannerisms, everything. Like he sold that performance so well. The little slip ups. I mean, Fred would leave mistakes in takes of his show. So like I remember even as a kid, I remember him kind of like maybe stumbling over a word or dropping a prop or something like that. And they depicted that in the movie as well. But like his dialogue on the show, it wasn't necessarily polished. And I loved that, like every little nuance, every little like stutter or trip over a word, in places that Tom Hanks need to do that. It just really sold it as a real person, as a real thing. And all of a sudden, for me anyway, Tom Hanks just disappeared, and I was in 100%.
Yep.
But I just thought that was a really interesting going into it, I mean, there was a lot about this movie that I didn't know what this movie was going to be. I thought that this was going to be like a biopic about the life of Fred Rogers.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was going to be kind of like an odd, like, documentary kind of thing.
I really thought we were going to be following the story of Fred Rogers, which we weren't.
Right. Instead, the story itself is about Lloyd, who is this reporter for Esquire magazine. Essentially, he's an investigative reporter, but he gets given, I guess they call it a fluff piece or whatever.
Yeah, he had a history of just tearing his subjects to shreds.
Right.
And he got a super, super terrible reputation for just just really, digging up all of the dirt he possibly could and just savaging his subjects.
Right. So his editor essentially handed him the story, said, "Hey, we're going to do a 1-page, if that, a 400-word article about some of the nation's heroes." And she gave him Fred Rogers, and he went into it with the mentality of, okay, I'm going to dig up all the dirt I can on this guy and prove that he's not a hero, prove that he is a fake and a phony. And we saw that with him. Like,
yeah.
The thing is this, like you said, it wasn't a documentary like what we thought about Mr. Rogers' life or whatever, but it was kind of a dip into, that's my phone ringing now. It was kind of a dip into, you learned a lot about Fred Rogers' life prior. Ross, I'm going to let you start talking. I'm going to mute real quick so that way you don't hear this whole background conversation.
Yeah, I thought the presentation was really interesting because it did give us a really solid glimpse into who Fred Rogers was, but through somebody else's eyes. And I especially thought it was interesting that it was through the eyes of someone who wasn't like a Fred Rogers fan. Like, he talked to his wife was all excited. Oh, Fred Rogers, he's the best. He's so great. And he's like, what do you mean he's so great? Like, we're experiencing Fred Rogers through the eyes of just this nihilistic kind of dickish dude who's got a lot of problems in his own life.
Oh, for sure. And I love the fact that, like, the first real interaction that we see between these two characters, right? Mm. And like, I can't even say that they're characters because, again, this was based on a true story.
Yeah.
The first interaction we see about this is Lloyd calls up, Mr. Rogers' office, I guess, and just leaves a message saying, "Hey, this is Lloyd so-and-so. I'm looking to get an interview with Mr. Rogers, doing this piece for Esquire magazine," whatever. That same day, Mr. Rogers himself, Fred Rogers, calls him back.
Yeah.
And starts talking to Lloyd and essentially says, and Lloyd was like, I was just wanting to set up an interview or whatever, and I didn't expect you to call him back so quick. And, one of the first things that Fred says to this guy is, well, if you wanted to talk to me so bad, I thought it's only, fair that, I'd want to talk to you as well.
Yeah.
And then it was when he's like, okay, well, when do you want to set up this interview? And Fred simply replies with, I don't mind setting up an interview, but I mean, you have me on the phone right now.
Right. I love that line, which comes back a little bit later on too. When Fred says, "Do you know who the most important person in the world to me is right now?" Or,
yes,
it's you.
Yes. It's Lloyd.
Which is great.
Yeah. Because like what one thing that, like, children don't grasp. I mean, we might grasp it to an extent when we watched the program, like when we were kids. Mm-hmm. Because, like, when I watched it, it felt like the way the program was presented is he was talking to you as the viewer. He wasn't just talking to a massive audience or talking to a camera. He was personalizing with you. And that's what he said is one thing that he does when he essentially records these shows is he looks through the camera and into the children watching it. and he tries to speak directly to them. And every single person he interacts with it seems in his life, he gives them all of his attention in that moment. However long that moment might be, it's it's Fred Rogers and that person.
Yeah.
And that's such a great thing. Like,
it is awesome.
It's something that
powerful,
and you don't see it anywhere.
No, well, because we're not. I mean, most people don't live their lives like that, right? Like, that's why people talk about like waiting for their turn to talk and stuff like that, and not listening, or not like really truly engaging with another person. So the fact that was something that he practiced and put into practice every day was and his job was amazing.
Yeah. And like one thing that it comes up later on in the movie when we essentially when we first meet his wife Joanne, she's talking to Lloyd and saying, "Oh, we call this the handoff handshake," and it's Mr. Rogers is shaking somebody's hand, and then all of a sudden that Bill guy comes in and like starts shaking their hand to relieve Mr. Rogers. Then Mr. Rogers moves on to the next person. Because I first off, I find it humorous in the fact that they hired a guy who worked for a senator, essentially as like a public relations person almost.
Yeah.
To essentially, his job is to wrangle Fred Rogers. It's to, okay, we know that Mr. Rogers, if you just let him go on his own, he's going to spend all day talking to these people, but he's got places to be, so it's this Bill's guy's job to make sure that he moves and gets to his things and gets his shit done.
Right.
But the thing is first off, we find out Bill, as bland as he seems throughout the movie, which I love that actor, as bland as he seems and as short as he seems, he fucking loves Mr. Rogers. Like, he loves his job, and he just the genuine caring of what he does for that couple.
But, and he's super protective of them too.
For sure.
So fun to watch.
But I know one thing that me and you talked about, and you loved this particular quote, was how when Lloyd called him a saint, he's like, he's a saint, and he was kind of saying it as kind of a half-ass comment, I guess,
right?
Trying to be, respectful to Mr. Rogers' wife, and his wife turns around and essentially says he doesn't like being called that or referred to as that, and it's because if people refer to him as a saint, that means it's his life and his personality is this unachievable thing. Because, sainthood is practically unachievable now.
It's above humanity.
Yeah. But the thing is like what she wanted to show Lloyd, and what Mr. Rogers tries to show everybody every day is practice, repetition, and just a good heart. Anyone can be as good as him. It's within our capabilities as human beings to be on that same level. You just have to want to be there.
Right. And I think there was a little bit of undertone too about like the philosophy in that to be as good as Fred Rogers doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be like Fred Rogers, like his kind of central, his central theme and message is, I like you just the way you are. Yeah. And, being good on a Fred Rogers level can look very different than the way Fred Rogers behaves. It's not about like his mannerisms that make him who he is, but it's about how he conducts himself in the world.
Right.
I also want to go back because all this, all of this stuff about him being so engaged and the great part about it, it also kind of let us see how his engagement to people in everyday life was a hardship on him and his family. Early on, I think in their first sit-down conversation between Lloyd and Fred, he asks Fred if it was hard on his children, like the impact that it had on his children.
That was the second sit down. That was when that was when Mr. Rogers took Lloyd to their New York apartment,
their house. Yeah,
that was right after the subway scene.
Yep, and he was trying to introduce him to the
Daniel Tiger,
puppets. To the puppets. Yep. And
and that man,
it's so weird how like. Just how a few words and a few like connotations can be so impactful. But like when Lloyd asks him, hey, yeah, it couldn't have been easy for your kids growing up being Mr. Rogers, having Mr. Rogers as a dad, blah, blah, blah. And then Mr. Rogers turned around and thanked Lloyd just simply for that perspective.
Yeah.
For acknowledging that.
Yeah.
Because that's not something that everybody would think of, and it just shows you, like, he was thankful for everything in life. You know, the good, the bad, it doesn't matter. I do love the fact that throughout the entire movie, like you said, Lloyd has this this set of problems that he's dealing with. He has a wife, he has a kid, he has anger issues, with his father and whatnot, and he gets into a fight with his dad at his sister's wedding, and slowly through his conversations with Mr. Rogers, he essentially you see that change in Lloyd's personality too, until finally they have that sit down where they go out to lunch. Like Lloyd has that breaking point where he goes unconscious, and and he wakes up in Mr. Rogers' house because they took care of him.
Yes,
and then they took him out to Chinese food or something.
Yes.
And then,
oh god,
that was insane. How he asked Lloyd, he's like, "Hey, just join me in just 1 minute of silence for all the people whose love brought us to where we are."
Yeah.
And how when he went silent, Lloyd went silent, and then one by one, the rest of the fucking restaurant just went silent.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
And I love that the movie let it happen. There were so many things, everything about this movie, and I think we see it less, especially in blockbuster movies, where moments aren't allowed to happen. Right. We've got to get to the next thing. It can feel very rushed, and this movie does a fantastic job of honoring all of those ideas and lessons, which is certainly commendable. It's what you would hope for, but it doesn't always happen. In that scene, I also love the moment where Lloyd asks Fred why he's a vegetarian, or if he's a vegetarian, blah blah blah. And Fred's response is, I just can't bring myself to eat anything who has a mother.
Yep. Which, that's understandable, and like, I don't.
That's not even a comment about about the idea of vegetarianism or veganism or eating meat or anything like that. Just that perspective of the world, the way he thinks.
Yep. And it wasn't even the fact that I can't bring myself to eat a living thing. It's I just don't want to eat anything that had a mother.
Right.
So Devin, what other things what was one of your favorite parts in the movie, Devin, so far? I know you still have to finish it, but
one of my favorite
one of the parts that you caught.
It's not even a specific part. It's just that I love the fact that every shot of him on the show, they actually shot it in 480.
Yeah, like the show. Yep.
Yep, they shot it in 480.
I also like the transitions, when they show, we're going to New York, they actually transition using the little the props or whatever.
Yeah.
That was super epic.
I just love the way that they did that. It made it seem more not authentic, but kind of
that's a really good point, because like I didn't even specifically notice that consciously, but like thinking back, it's like, oh man, that really like helped the immersion, right?
Yeah.
You
know what really helped the immersion? I'm not gonna lie, learning how magazines were made on the picture.
Yeah.
It's like, I just need Mr. Rogers to follow me around with picture all the time.
Yep.
How shit's done.
I mean, I forgot about picture until then, and then I was like, holy shit, magazines are made with yellow fucking paint or yellow ink. I didn't know that.
Oh, do you remember the episode with when they go to the crayon factory? I know that's a famous segment, but man, that one was awesome.
I don't remember that one.
Oh, it was good.
I don't remember much of my childhood.
See, I was never really a Mr. Rogers kid. Like,
what did you watch growing up when you were a kid?
I was in that weird era where it wasn't really. I mean, Mr. Rogers was around, obviously, but I was in that weird era of like. I was born in '92, so I was in that weird era where like there was 1,000 other kid shows on. Like, I'm sure I've watched Mr. Rogers, but I never watched it. It wasn't like a religious thing where I watch it every day.
Right.
I'm sure.
I don't think mine was ever like strictly like Mr. Rogers is on, I need to sit down and watch it. It was more so like, I'm inside, the TV's on, Mr. Rogers is on, I'll sit down and watch this.
Yeah, like
that was the same with like when I was even younger. Sesame Street was the same way. I wasn't real strict. I wasn't like a scheduled Sesame Street watcher or anything, but I did enjoy the show.
A lot of these shows in particular are like that really early childhood stuff. So like my significant memories are usually of like cartoons from like middle school and stuff like that, rather than this stuff, which is kind of like in that weird ether. I know in my family, like we would talk about those old shows. So I think a lot of my memories about Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers and stuff like that are talking with my mom about, hey, remember that episode? Blah, 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 blah.
Right.
It was just kind of in the conversation. That was just like these kinds of shows were important to us.
Yep. No, see, I'm in the same boat. Like, I remember watching those shows and I remember enjoying them, but whenever I think of shows that I watched in my childhood, I always go back to like what you said, like cartoons in my middle school, like the X-Men cartoon, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoon, all of those. Yeah, exactly.
G.I. Joe, Transformers.
Now, as far as like the Mr. Rogers and Sesame Street, they used a lot of puppetry, which led me into like other shows that I really ended up liking because of that aspect, like things like Fraggle Rock. I liked Fraggle Rock a lot.
I watched Fraggle Rock. I definitely watched Fraggle Rock.
I still watch Fraggle Rock, man. HBO Go, just throw that shit on at night. Man,
one puppet show I will not like. Fuck Lamb Chops, though. I fucking hated that show.
Lamb Chops?
No, I did. I did because of the goddamn theme song, okay? I hated that song.
What are you talking about?
I hated it. No, I hated that. No, because every time I heard that theme song, it'd be stuck in my head for 3 days. It's like,
How does it, what song?
Man.
I don't even remember.
Shut up, I'm not doing it.
How does it go?
Shut up, I'm not doing
it. He didn't mean it.
I did mean it.
He didn't mean it, Sherry Lewis.
I did.
No, he didn't.
Set your goddamn lamb puppet on fire and shove it up your ass.
Oh, man, that's hard.
Yeah.
It goes on and on, my friend.
Fuck off, the pair of you.
But yeah, like I think Mr. Rogers definitely spawned a lot of stuff. I don't know if we would have shows like How Is It Made if we didn't, if it weren't for Mr. Rogers. Like, it's really, really cool stuff.
And every day, every day was just a different, essentially like a different lesson. Like, it was. I don't know. He did a lot of good. I will say one thing I wanted to point out, and we're going to jump kind of to the end of the movie here.
Yeah,
is when he's sitting down with with Lloyd's family or whatever.
Yes.
And then the brother-in-law's like, "Is it true you were a sniper or a sharpshooter or some shit?" and then the father's like, "Army Rangers," blah blah whatever, because there was a lot of those, a lot of those rumors going around that Mr. Rogers was in the military, blah blah blah. Not true. That was not the case. One thing that they did touch upon a little bit, mainly based, his faith, his like he prays for people individually by name every night.
Yeah.
There's like a good chunk of his life. I mean, he was an ordained minister or whatnot. He was,
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the wording for it, but he was, essentially a minister of the church.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, when he was meant to, he taught kids about different things, and I think that's how he, I think, got into the TV show thing aspect of it. Was he's like, oh, I can teach larger groupings of individuals this way,
bigger reach.
Yeah. So
yeah. Now, do we want to talk about the end?
We can. We can. Devin, I don't think Devin really cares about spoilers. He's only got fucking 30 minutes left.
By all means, go for it. Go for it.
All right, cool.
Also, I really like the fact that, like, one thing Mr. Rogers said in that movie, essentially, was one thing that he tries to teach the kids. Like, one reason why he does what he does, or he did what he did, was, like Lloyd brought up the fact that some of his episodes got pretty dark. Like he talks about death. Mm-hmm. He talks about bullying. He talks about divorce. And like he tries to. His main purpose was he tries to teach, or he tried to teach kids about these things so they had a better way of dealing with their emotions.
Yeah.
Like you can't hide these things from kids.
Right.
Kids have to know that this is an imperfect world, but have a healthy way of dealing with it.
And kids are used to getting talked down to about, especially about serious things. And I don't know if you got pissed off about it, but I certainly did as a kid when people would treat you like a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think
I can handle these concepts.
The thing is like you're like parents when we were kids, like parents would talk down to us like we were kids, like we didn't know anything. But to us, it's like, hey, I know a hell of a lot more than you think I know. But then as we grew older, now I look down at kids, it's like, man, you don't know shit. All right, you little punk. Okay, wait until life turns you around and fucking fists you in the ass. Then you're gonna know. Okay, fucking asshole. Get away from me.
Also too, though, I think a lot of it speaks to just the generation. You gotta think about it like this, like back in the day.
Yeah, kids have gotten a lot dumber over the years.
Well, think about it this way: like back in the day, even like my time, even before my time. There was usually one, maybe two TVs in the house, and after you ate dinner, it was usually you up with your family either watching one show or watching news or watching whatever.
Watching the news until Dad falls asleep.
And then you try to change the channel, and he wakes up and says, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
That's basically what it was. I mean, so you were exposed to a lot of that. But I mean, even talking on like the darker aspects of Mr. Rogers, I think like the most iconic one is probably what's her name when she's talking with the puppet and he's like, what does assassination mean?
Oh yeah.
Oh shit, I don't remember that.
It's kind of like out of
this
context.
Would not be an SU without Devin linking me something to watch.
Out of context for the episode, like out of context of what was going on at the time, it's actually kind of a funny scene, but specifically because they're talking about the Kennedy assassination.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But it was just out of context for the scene. It's actually pretty funny.
Dude, I like how I don't remember. I read it yesterday, so my facts are gonna get all fucked up here. But I like how Mr. Rogers he was not making a speech at like a board, but he was sitting and giving, I guess, essentially a speech in front of like a board committee type thing.
The Senate? Was this the Senate one when he's
talking
about funding for PBS?
Maybe, but he essentially quoted just one of his songs. That was his speech.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, I mean, you can't really argue with him, you know? I mean, he's Mr. Rogers. It's very impactful. Everything he did was impactful.
Yeah.
You know?
There are some great documentaries. There were two that came out like pretty close to each other, Mr. Rogers and Me and Won't You Be My Neighbor. And both of them are really solid documentaries that give an awesome glimpse into his life in documentary form as opposed to a biopic. But
right.
Those scenes like are still like every time I see, you know, footage of him in that Senate hearing, you know, I still get a little choked up. It's like, oh God,
yeah.
You know, this kind of unassuming, quiet, sweet man is you know, commanding such a presence. It was just really, really wild to see.
Yep. So what were you wanted to go to the end? Ross?
Yeah, because I mean, you were talking about when Mr. Rogers comes and visits the family. So by the end of the film, we've learned, you know, Lloyd and his father have been having it out. Like they have this really strained relationship, and his father keeps trying to come back and trying to get back into his life, and unsurprisingly, we learn it's because his father is dying. He's got cancer. I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep.
I called that like as soon as I saw him, like first saw him come on screen. I was like, a mile away.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, oh, okay, I see where this is going. Okay, but so yeah, Mr. Rogers visits the house, visits Dad, and you know, everybody's at the house together, and you know, they're talking and laughing and joking, and
oh yeah, and the daughter says, oh yeah, we can make a family vacation, go down to the beach.
Yeah, and the father, you know, said something, you know, somebody said something about, you know, if I'm still around for that would be great, or whatever.
Yeah. And then everyone got silent.
Just quiet. And then what Mr. Rogers comes in with, he says, you know, talking about these difficult subjects, these things that are hard to talk about. We think that they're unmentionable, but you know, if we talk about them, if they're mentionable, then they're manageable. Yeah. And it was just like this simple concept, like, you know, not being afraid of death, or not being afraid to talk about it, and to be with each other when you're dealing with something that difficult.
Yeah.
But then, even beyond that, what I thought was super, super powerful is before Fred leaves, he whispers something.
Oh yeah, dude, this.
Yeah. Oh God, this was something. So they're leaving the house, and Lloyd asks, I have to know, what did you say to my father? And Fred said something to the effect of, you know,
I asked him to pray for me.
Yeah.
Because any man in that situation or in his circumstance is a lot closer to God.
Yes. And there was the initial, like, wow, that's really, that's like the just asking him to pray for him is really wild. But the more I thought about it, I was also thinking, like, Mr. Rogers was giving this guy, the father, Chris Cooper's character, was a strong and proud man. And when you're at that point in your life where, you know, your faculties are going, and you're getting close to death, there's not a lot you can do for yourself or for other people. And Fred Rogers gave him the power to do something for someone else.
Yep.
He highlighted the power that this man still had to help someone else and be a strong person. And that is fucking powerful.
Yep. Again, man, like I said, I had like two things to say about this movie. One, it's a great movie. Second, Mr. Rogers is a great man.
Yeah, good movie, great dude.
You know, he was a phenomenal dude.
Probably for another 20 years.
Probably one of the better, dudes that this world has seen in a very long time.
For another 20 years.
Yep.
Until the unsolved mysteries comes to light.
until we get Mr. Rogers, the untold truth.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man, it's not going to be Mr. Rogers. It's going to be Mrs. Rogers, the untold truth. Okay? There was something shady about her. Okay? When she just stopped playing the piano and just stared at Lloyd, it was like, man, shit runs in the family. Talk about murdering a serial killer. Shit.
Run, Lloyd. You won't make it out alive, but run.
Now,
Lloyd.
Ross, okay, you know your instruments pretty well.
Yeah.
Those were grand pianos or baby grand pianos or something?
They were probably baby grand.
Okay. Now, question.
Just based on memory, yeah.
If you killed someone, you chopped them up into little itty bitty pieces, and then you put them inside the grand piano, would you not be able to play that?
Oh, it's gonna ruin the sound. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
It'll be.
So at least we know they weren't hiding bodies in the pianos.
No, unless
an organ.
Unless they cremated the bodies,
maybe able to hide a body.
What if they cremated the bodies and put all the ash into the wood?
That's still probably gonna affect the tone a bit, but they could have been electric pianos with just a decorative attachment to make it look, because they make baby grand electric pianos that are just electronic, and there's just like the empty section for show.
Oh, so no, but I was talking about if you cremated the bodies and then you took the ash from the bodies and you put that as like put that as like a finish, as like work that in with like a lacquer, so it had like an ashy finish to the piano. Then every time they sit down, they're like, "Hey, I remember you fuckers."
Maybe the keys were made out of real bone.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
I didn't even think of that.
Oh man,
that's fucked up.
Wild,
totally possible.
That's fucked up.
Very.
Piano keys are already made out of ivory,
right?
Man.
So,
Joanne Rogers, what's your story? That's all I gotta say.
The Boardwalk Hall Auditorium organ is apparently the world's largest pipe organ.
So, I gotta say, I thought the movie was great. I highly recommend it to everybody.
Agreed.
Even if you, I honestly, I more so recommend it to anybody who didn't care for Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
Okay. Watch this movie, learn a little bit more about Mr. Rogers, and honestly, come out telling me that you still don't care about Mr. Rogers. Because you know what? If you don't like Mr. Rogers, that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. If you watch this movie and you message me saying, you know what, Webby, I watched that movie, I still don't like Mr. Rogers, I'm going to say, fuck you, asshole. Mr. Rogers was goddamn close to being a saint, but not a saint because his likelihood is achievable.
Yeah.
Okay?
Tom Hanks was on one of the talk shows talking about playing him, and he was talking about having watched like hundreds of hours of episodes of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, trying to get into this role. And and Tom Hanks was like, I just don't get, I didn't get it. And he was like, maybe 100 episodes in, I was finally like, oh, this isn't for me. I'm not the target demographic.
Now, I have a question.
Yeah.
Mainly because I don't remember, and I guess I could easily just go pull up an old episode or picture or whatever. Did Mr. Rogers have like that, like one eye that squinted a little bit more than others, or was that just Tom Hanks' spin on it? Or was that just Tom Hanks?
It could have been just Tom Hanks. I don't know what he's got going on.
Because I don't recall Mr. Rogers having like one eye that was just slightly more squinted than the other.
I don't remember that distinctly at all. So it could have just been, I don't know if it's a Tom Hanks thing or if it was a choice or.
Well, either way, it made the movie great. The movie was great anyway.
That eye twitch, that's really what did it.
That's where the evilness was.
That's where
I mean, he kind of did in some pictures, not like every picture. But some pictures he did. Like, for instance, let me find the one here.
Hello.
A second ago. Like, there's a couple of pictures of him where he has like one eye's kind of a little squinty, not as much as.
You know the link that you just sent, the one with the assassin clip.
Yeah,
I was reading that and I was like, "What the fuck does that say? Long Vermont Roads?" And I was like, And then it just dawned on me, Long Vermont Roads. It's like, I'm an idiot. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't as pronounced as the way Tom Hanks did it, but
Tom Hanks. That could just be Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
he was probably just overacting.
Yeah. I don't know. It was a great movie.
It was honestly, it was rather solid.
Yeah. I had my reservations going into it. Again, I went into it thinking it was going to be a documentary, but I was pleasantly surprised when it wasn't.
Yeah.
And I still came out learning a lot that I didn't know prior. So, honestly, the only bad thing about Mr. Rogers was he was from fucking Pennsylvania. It's the only negative thing I can think of.
So what are your feelings about Pennsylvania? I guess I'm just not clear.
I fucking hate Pennsylvania.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
Beautiful country. Beautiful countryside, like when you're driving on the highways and stuff. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. Beautiful. Fucking driving through Pennsylvania sucks. Okay? Me and Rob drove through Pennsylvania trying to get down to Indianapolis, and we hit fucking like 2 detours and 1 road stop because fucking all 3 of them were caused by car fires. One of them was an 18-wheeler truck on fire. It's like cars just spontaneously combust on Pennsylvania highways. It's stupid. It's backed up for like hours too. And then like between your exits, it's like, okay, well, you're stuck in bumper to bumper traffic sitting there for 2.5 hours. And it's half of it is because these people are just rubbernecking, wanting to see what the fuck. Oh, that car's on fire. I want to see what kind of damage it was. Whereas you could have just kept fucking going. Traffic would have flowed a little bit more smoothly. But then, like, you're so far between exits that you can't detour around the fucking accident. You know?
I've never driven anywhere that's like that. That's
fucking
wild.
Pennsylvania.
Apparently, yeah.
Okay. Huh. Damn. At least the one stretch of highway that we were on. Fuck Pennsylvania.
Well, anyway. There you go.
Anyway, thanks for dredging up those old memories.
Hey, you know what? I'm glad to help.
Fuck you. I don't mean that.
I know.
I like you just the way you are.
Yeah, same to you.
I wish I could say the same about Pennsylvania. Well,
maybe when we move there, you're
not moving there. No.
What are you talking about?
You live in a mobile home. You could just drive your ass out of Pennsylvania.
We could, but what if that's where we want to settle down? Then we're going to need you to come and visit us.
No, I'm going to tell you and Jamie, no.
Housewarming.
I'm going to smack you both on the nose with a newspaper and say, stop being dumb. Don't be stupid. Go a little south. Go to Florida. You love Florida.
We're in Florida.
See?
We've been here.
Yeah. No, then go to Arizona.
We've been there.
Yeah. See? You love it, though. Don't go to Pennsylvania.
We haven't spent enough time there yet.
Why the fuck would you want to live in Pennsylvania?
I don't know. They just got stuff there,
I thought the whole reason you left New Hampshire is because you hate the winters.
Yeah.
They get bad winters, too.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
We'll have to think about it.
Stick with your RV and just move around the bad weather. That's the best thing about an RV is you don't like where you're at, fucking get up and go.
South in the winter.
That's
south in the winter.
That's what we've been doing for the past 3 years.
Yeah, just do that. Like, oh, it's winter time. All right. We're going south at the Mason-Dixon. I'm out.
It is bad enough that this last time that you were up, we didn't get to do our 24-hour hangout.
I know.
You're making that up to me somehow.
I know.
You know what?
Okay.
You're a grown man. You're a big boy. I think you're okay.
Don't you defend him, Devin?
I gotta defend him.
No.
Who else will?
Yeah.
Okay. Damn. Ross, did I tell you in John's WWE or the DMWF? I'm sorry.
The DMWF.
Yeah, it's the Distractions Media Wrestling Federation.
Yeah.
Your character, not only is he a pirate, and the entrance music is technically a female's entrance, so it's kind of flamboyant, but still you're a pirate.
I'm into it.
You are the newest member of the Simply Unprofessionals.
Woohoo!
You have joined our stable of wrestlers.
Right on. So, I've tried to. Well, no, I take that back. I did watch something on YouTube recently. I watched there was a Royal Rumble.
Yes. The only fucking match that I think I've won.
So you saw Webby not letting me down.
Yeah.
Webby keeps saying
that was literally like the only match I've won.
You have never let me down.
Dude, okay, let me ask you this.
I keep letting you down.
No, hold on. We were in a triple threat tornado tag for the tag team titles. Me and you were in it. Tamara put me in a submission move and I tapped.
What was the move?
Like an arm bar.
That's fine. It's legitimate.
I tapped, Devin. You can't honestly tell me that I let you down. Or that I didn't let you down.
Webby, you're getting older. The elbow's not what it used to be. It's fine.
Listen. God damn it. All right, then tell me this too. Okay, like I feel like I'm cursed because literally, and it's happened the last 2 or 3 times that I've watched and or hosted with John. Every single time I root for someone or cheer for someone, they lose. And then Kurt's like, "Well, just root for somebody that you don't like." It's like I can't, in good consciousness, do that. I have to stick with who I would normally root for, but then we end up losing. It's fucked up. It's real fucked up.
Fine.
And we're doing it again tonight.
Oh, cool!
Tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern on John's
podcast audience.
On John's Twitch. Yeah, perfect because you're gonna be a day late and $1 short. For the podcast audience, you can watch these. I believe he lets them out on Mondays on the YouTube channel. He lets out these videos. But for the live, if you want to watch it live, Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on John's Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/LinsteadDM. You can watch the wrestlers beat the shit out of each other.
Beautiful.
Tonight, I have a little background information. Tonight, me and you, Devin, are in a title match, a tag title match that we're probably going to lose.
To get our title back?
Yeah, to get the tag title. We're going against John and Tamara.
We're not going to lose. You're going to tap John for the win. I'm calling it right now.
I don't think I have a single submission move.
It's fine.
I'm all suplexes and headbutts.
Fine. You know what?
Which, Ross, me and you used to do some backyard wrestling.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the most Webby thing you've ever said.
That's pretty much me, is I pick you up, throw you around, and headbutt you. That's...
Yeah.
I still got to buy the game. Like I keep telling myself I got to do it, and then money keeps coming up and saying no. But I got to buy the game and make it happen.
Which game is that? Is this the newest one?
No,
2K19.
It's 2K19. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not the super buggy one.
No.
Yep. It's 2K19. So and John made me. It doesn't look terrible, but I've made myself. I've played. Oh God, I've been playing.
You look a lot better than you did.
I've played pretty much every year from 13 to about 17. So I played every year religiously for like 4 years. I was on like a online like federation thing where, every weekend we'd meet up and have like actual, like we book out a match and have book out a show and have actual matches because we were crazy people. So yeah, like, and you'd have like your match come through like a Google Drive calendar, like, hey, you have this match coming up on this night. It's like, all right. But yeah, so we did that, and that was fun. I held multiple titles for a long time. So
I will say, appearance-wise, you do look a lot better now than you did prior.
But I don't,
because before you looked like you were like Arabian.
I'm telling you. Like, I actually got myself down to one point. It was like uncanny good. So I intend to do that and get send either upload it and give it to John, or like just get a call with him and be like, all right, move this slider to this slider to this slider to this.
Oh, that'll drive him bonkers, because I tried to do that to.
He
went through and did that with me too.
No. I'll have everything already done.
Oh, I did too. This was before we went to 2K19. This was back when we had the other 2K, one that I had.
Like I said, if theoretically, if I can just upload it, and then he should be able to upload it and then just download it. Theoretically, if not, then I can just make it happen my way. It's fine.
Do you use do you do character customization all in box, or do you upload like a photo of you and work from there?
No, I've done both, but I usually just do it all in game.
Yeah, he does it all in game. He did a couple of the people using photos, and a lot of them didn't come out looking great.
If you don't have like true studio lighting and you're not able to make a good face map, because like the face wrapping doesn't look good, you need to scan your face and then make a kind of do the thing in Photoshop where you like unfold your face.
Yeah.
And then upload it as a flat matte picture and then reload it, and then it'll mold around right. Because I've done that before too, but
weird. Have you made any monsters?
He did start making some of the Distractions podcast D&D characters.
Oh, really?
So he's made, so far from what I remember, I mean, this might be a week behind or so. I know he's made Trip, who was a demon. He made Talon, Austin's character, the half elf, and he's made Jax, my Minotaur. Which
I got it.
Okay, now, mind you, you can't obviously make Minotaurs in this wrestling game. So then, I helped him essentially just by telling him in his Twitch chat which things to do, and I do have a set of horns. He's dark brown because Jax had brown fur. He has the Bane mask because that's probably the closest thing to a snout that I could think of, without looking stupid. And then John made him like 7 feet. And I was like, John, does it go any higher than that? He's like, how tall do you want it to go? It's going to be unrealistic. It's like, you're making a fucking Minotaur and you're worried about it being unrealistic? He's like, well, how tall was Jax? I was like, Jax was 8'3". So he ramped it up, and I guess this thing's like 7'8" or something is as tall as it'll go. And so Jax is humongous. So, but yeah. I guess he did a little bit more working around, and I don't know. I'm interested to see.
Question.
I don't think he's actually put them in any of the matches yet.
Okay.
I think right now he's trying to stick to actual just Distractions Media members and I guess associates, because some of the people made aren't actually Distractions Media members. But John needed more bodies, so Avalos gave him, ideas of a bunch of people that he could possibly make to just fill out the roster a bit. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, if you had approached me and said, "Hey, here's an idea," I'd be like, "Yeah, I don't know, sounds, eh." But one night John was doing this, and I had his Twitch stream on in the background. And I'm just listening to him, and just the fact that it's AI versus AI, and you as a viewer and an announcer don't know who's gonna win. It's oddly entertaining. So, and then I get really frustrated with myself when everybody I care about loses all the time. And then John's like, well, you run the Royal Rumble. It's like, yeah, I came in the fucking 19th. Obviously, I'm going to do good. There's only fucking 21 people in the Rumble. I was happy with the fact that it came down to me, Devin, and Donnie, and then me and Devin eliminated Donnie, and then it came down to me and Devin. And then it was a very anticlimactic ending to that Rumble, because it was just I whipped Devin into the corner and clotheslined him over the top rope. That was just it. But I was happy. I came in and I did some cool elimination. Like Chris's character, I powerbombed him over the top rope to the outside. So that was cool.
Webby's not keen to my idea, but at some point, once I buy the game, hopefully I may have the money to do it now.
It's not that I'm not keen on your idea. I like the AI versus AI better than I like any type of controlled character playing.
Right, but see, this is what I said I was going to do. I was going to basically turn the AI to max difficulty, take off the HUD completely, and run the career mode. Make myself and run the career mode. So with no HUD, nothing, and see if I can actually succeed.
I mean, I'll still watch it. I don't know. To me, when you start putting in the player-controlled aspect of it, it becomes more one-sided, regardless of how difficult you make the difficulty.
And see, that's where you're.
Because like I used to play the like it's been a hot minute. Like I think I played 2K16 was the last one that I really actually played. But I mean I used to play all the wrestling games and I'd always put them up on max difficulty and challenge myself. But I mean I used to be real good at these games.
Same.
So I mean it was still at that point it really wasn't much of a challenge.
But see, one of the things I would
every so often Undertaker would come in and fucking chokeslam me in, and then that'd put me down and out. It's like, you motherfucker, that came out of nowhere.
But no, see, one of the things I always do, because it's just ingrained in me when I play that game is, like you can do cycle through a couple of moves and win the game. I always tried to make it cinematic. So, even when playing, like I wouldn't necessarily fail, but I would try to, do a very specific thing or do something very specific that maybe it was to my detriment.
Right.
Which is very possible. So, I mean, last time I did this on my own, I want to say it took me almost 3 weeks of playing at least 4 days a week, a couple hours to get my first title shot.
No.
And like I was good at this game, but it's just that because when they changed the system and they gave you a counter gauge, I don't know if they changed it again, where you used to be able to counter unlimited, it was all timing based, but then it's timing based and they gave it where you only can counter like based on your technical skill level, you only can counter between 3 and 5 times, and those build up over time. So if you go into a match and you like waste all your counters right away, you have to just eat moves until you get counters back. So you had to kind of be judicious with your counters.
I will say where I started to lose a lot more was when they put in the pin mechanic of if you're being pinned, it's that little circle fucking mini game where you have to hit X while it's inside the little tiny slice of pie. I love that mini game.
I have had so many crazy.
I hate that.
Like I cannot tell you how many times I've had like 4 or 5 people on like a PlayStation call or whatever, and we're all playing this, and I think I'm out. Like we're doing like me and my friends were doing like one of our title matches or like our elimination chamber matches, been pinned like 7 times, and the bar is like literally the width of a penny, and it goes around. It's like, and it comes up so slow. Like I have one shot to get it, I kick out right there like on 2.5, and you just lose your mind. And it's so great.
And see, on the flip side of that, like the match will start with me. I get back body dropped and then pinned, and then I fuck up on the pin counter and I lose the game in one move. It's like, motherfucker, I hate this. I hate them because like my anxiety, as soon as that comes up, I feel like stressed and like my anxiety goes up and there's sense of urgency, and then I get really fucking, my hands get fumbly and I don't like it.
My anxiety goes up when that happens, but it goes up like the better. Like I get hyper focused. Let's do it.
I was much better at the button, like button mashing to get up to recover.
Yeah,
I was much better at that.
I think they made it where you could change it.
I fucking hope so.
17 or 18.
Anyway,
change it.
We're at 1 hour and 15.
All right.
Ross, you proved me wrong. We successfully talked about Mr. Rogers for more than 45 minutes.
Oh, I wasn't keeping track in terms of like how long we were actually talking about Mr. Rogers.
It was more than 45 minutes. It was more than 45 minutes.
About 45 minutes, if not more than 45.
Right on. Cool.
So with that, we're going to end this week's episode. So Devin, we need some life advice with Devin.
Oh man, life advice with Devin.
You know what? This week we're going to do a life advice with all of us. We're going to each participate in this.
All right. Well, I have a tip for everyone who is of age.
Okay.
Don't let your health insurance lapse because you're like, oh, I don't go to the doctor. It's fine. Then you got to go to the doctor, or in my case, the dentist.
Yep.
The dentist, and then you realize I don't have health insurance, and it's not good.
Yep.
But yeah. So
and then you realize that one tooth back there is either going to be a $1,900 root canal or a $700 extraction. It's like, well, none of those options sound good.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. Although I think mine's just going to be being a filling, but it's still up in the air.
Yeah. Don't let your insurance lapse.
In general, I mean, your life insurance. If you're like 21,
Ross, do you have a life advice for the audience?
Oh golly, yeah. I mean, I'm a little.
It can be life advice. It can be words of encouragement.
Yeah. Okay.
Everyone
should drop out of school and become musicians. That's what everyone should.
No, you probably should not. Probably should not pitch that to all the listeners. Cheeky, do not do that. I need you to keep doing very well in school because you're my go-to math person.
Oh, I can learn math outside of a classroom, but that's not the point here. I'm gonna go with something relatively simple. You've probably heard this before, but maybe not necessarily. Yeah, exactly. So don't look a gift horse in the mouth, because if you get close enough, those shits will bite you.
Yes.
Can you look a gift horse in the ass?
Horses, no, because then they'll fucking kick you. You never want to be behind a horse. There's one thing growing up with horses, and Mom, you'll be proud of me. You don't fucking stand behind the horse, okay? It will kick you, okay? That is bad. Also, when the horse is walking into the barn, do not stand behind it and follow it, because then when the horse gets spooked, it starts automatically backing up, and you'll get trampled like I did, which was not fun. Okay,
that explains a lot, actually.
Also, Austin, if you're listening, if you're ever feeding a horse a carrot or some other type of food, put it in the palm of your hand and then flatten your hand as much as possible. Otherwise, the horse is going to grab right a hold of them little fingers of yours and bite them suckers off. All right,
those little people carrots.
Yes,
people carrots.
The people carrots. Also, the part of the horse underneath the hoof, like the soft bits under there, is called the frog. Boom. I know horses. I don't know why. I honestly don't remember why I retained that knowledge, but I know that that's called the frog.
I'm taking your word for it. I didn't know that. I learned something new.
Also, if you're ever feeding a horse a carrot, like a whole carrot, and you're holding onto the end of it and letting the horse nibble on the other end, don't accidentally touch it to the electric fence. You both get electrocuted. It'll go through the goddamn carrot. Okay? Oh, shit. It's not fun. I didn't do that one with the horse. I did that one with the goat. But it still zapped us both, and it wasn't fun. Yeah. Mom hated that goat. She hated the potbelly pig more, though, I think.
Oh, the pig was great.
Yeah. Anyway. My words of encouragement is I like you just the way you are. I'm gonna steal that one from Mr. Rogers.
Right on. How fitting.
I don't think none of you should change. You guys are all just great the way you are, and I love each and every one of you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading or joining us, however you listen to this particular podcast. Ross, where can people find you on the interwebs if they want to get a hold of you?
You can find me hanging out on Instagram at Ross_Boyd.
Okay. Do you want to pitch your website? Don't you have a website?
Yeah, RossMalcolmBoyd.com. It's a great place to go for all things Ross Malcolm Boyd.
And what's your latest CD?
The latest CD is Clouds.
Yes.
It's a collection of ambient instrumental music for relaxing to, falling asleep to, or just plain ignoring.
I have a personal request after this episode's over. I'll let you know.
Okay.
Devin, where can people find you on the internet?
You guys can find me at Twitter at DMP_Pookie and on Twitch at PooKilledMe. And as always, you can find me at the wonderful, wonderful location of eBay, looking for the bodies under Mr. Rogers' house.
Is that the Electronic Bay?
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Shit. Oh, I remember the one time I was like, you can send us electronic mail. And Devin's like, I fucking hate you.
Yeah, that
he got me. You genuinely got upset. You're like, that. Yes. You suck. I hate you. You're like, you didn't save anybody time by saying it that way. It's put down to email for a goddamn reason. Oh, man. All right. As always, everybody, you can follow me on fucking Twitter at Shax Forest Walker, all one word, at Twitch at DM Webby, on Instagram at Patrick.Webster52, and on eBay at Pissing Devin Off with electronic mail. Thank you guys for listening, and remember, fuck Booster Gold.
Fuck Booster Gold.
Down.
Also, everybody, don't forget, Christ Cab is coming to a theater near you, a Distractions Media picture starring Hugh Laurie, in theaters this holiday season.
Christ Cab! I love the name of that! Devin, we gotta write up this pitch, man. It's gold. It's gold. Christ Cab.
I like it. I'm down.
I just love the aspect of this Uber driver locking you in the back until you accept Christ.